Are there any big hurdles you've had to overcome or challenges within financial services? Because obviously, you just finished school when you were 18 and now work in industry that you've never worked in before. Is there something that, you thought was a big challenge or a big hurdle to get into the industry?
I think I will bring it back to that.
What about your role? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? If someone was in your shoes and they're working in the financial service sector, what is it that you do?
Yeah, it's a mix between...
Is there anything you'd probably look back on that you probably wanted to do differently?
There's things I wish
Do you regret it?
It suddenly dawned on me that I had no plan B. It was a scary time. I sort of went into this fight or flight mode. It was like, I need to just come up with a plan of action, basically.
Hello and welcome to the Zomi Wealthcast. Today we have Maria Langford, a young and inspiring individual in the financial services sector. She's only 20 years old and nearly finished all of her advisory exams. I think this is definitely a podcast and show for very young individuals that should listen in and kind of understand her perspective and her progress in the industry. I'm super excited to host this. I'm obviously Jordan, the host of the Zomi Wealthcast, and I'm going to pick Maria's brain today and kind of figure out where she started, how it's going, and if there's any future developments. Maria, it's lovely to have you on today. Thank you for coming by.
I'm excited to be here, and what a lovely setup.
I know, it's
lovely.
very cozy, isn't it? Very different, I guess, but I know we've obviously spoken quite a bit before this, so we've had like a lot of catching up, and
Definitely.
Now I think we know a lot about each other. Just wow, that's all I can say. Really excited to get into the depths of most of the questions because I think it's going to open up a lot of thoughts for younger individuals in the industry because you're currently doing it and it's coming from actions that you've done already. Maria, I think it's a very good point to probably just start off with a little about yourself and how you got into the industry, your backstory. So further ado.
Thank you, Jordan. I think a good place to start is by probably saying I never thought I would be working in finance.
Yeah.
Something that I always said to myself was that I never wanted to work in finance. And I think I had so many untrue assumptions about the industry that only probably until I, started to get some experience, realised that it's so not the case. And I want people to know, so my intention of being here today is for people to realise how accessible the financial services profession is and how we want people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds who can provide valuable insights. And we so desperately need you. And me personally, it was my dream to become a solicitor and to study law at university, and it never happened, and I haven't looked back since. So a little bit about me.
Yeah, take us back. Obviously, you said you want to be a solicitor.
Yeah.
You went to school, obviously.
Yeah.
You did various subjects in school. So let's start all the way by school, and then you obviously wanted to become a solicitor, and now you end up in financial services. So tell us a bit about that before.
So finished my A-levels, and those of you that possibly watched this that know me from school knew that my whole life revolved around study, around revision, around wanting to be a solicitor and wanting to go to university to study law. And it never happened. Results day came and everyone else was getting in to what they wanted. And it suddenly dawned on me that I had no plan B. And it was a scary time. Even though it was scary, I sort of went into this fight or flight mode. It was like, I need to just come up with a plan of action, basically.
Right, well, definitely not a setback. Look where you are now, but we'll get into that, yeah.
And I took some time out, and when I originally took the time out, I had these two blocks in my mind. I said, I'm never working in finance, I never want to take a gap year. And I did both of those things.
Right.
So lesson learned from that, never say you're never going to do something, because you might just end up doing exactly that. So yes, took some time out, and I ended up just having a lot of time to really reflect on what I actually wanted, which in all honesty, I had no clue.
I think it's really important for the viewers also to know that you are only 20 years old as well.
Yes.
So you're very, very young, and obviously you're now working in financial services. Yeah. So obviously you took that gap year or took the break, and you've landed up in financial services. How did that opportunity open up? How did that door open up? Because you never wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
So I originally applied for a role which was labelled as an executive support at a financial services firm. And I thought, oh my gosh, I know nothing about finance. It sounds a bit boring,
yeah.
but I'm willing to give it a go. I knew nothing about the industry. Financial advice, never heard of it. Never got taught about it at school, never got taught about the profession. So I was going in completely blind, which I think actually helped, because I could
no
then
expectations and assumptions and all
I
the
could
rest,
then make up my own mind once I was there. And I went for this role, and they said, actually, we want to take you on as a trainee advisor. I haven't looked back since. It is an amazing profession. It is a life-giving profession.
Definitely. Yeah.
What you can give back and how you can change people's lives, it's remarkable. And the things that I've learned professionally but also personally have been life-changing for me in my own perspective to things. And I think I just so wish more people knew about the industry and about the profession, and about how it's so much more than numbers and figures. It's about personal relationships.
Definitely.
And we were speaking beforehand about how money is so much more psychological than it is numbers. And I think I would never have applied for role trainee financial advisor because I got a C in maths. I'm rubbish at maths.
Yeah.
And it would have put me off immediately. But if someone would have told me it's about client relationships and it's about so much more than numbers and figures and graphs, then I would have applied for the job. And I think, interestingly enough, which is something I'm really passionate about, is getting more women into the profession. And statistically, women are less likely to apply for jobs because they think they're underqualified.
Right.
And I think something we need to be doing is labelling the profession more clearly, because I think then people will have more of an incentive to look for it and to apply.
Agreed.
And if I would have had that beforehand, I would have been more knowing as to what I'm getting myself into. Not that I would have done anything differently, but for other people out there who I want to inspire, I want them to be clearer as to what they're getting themselves into.
You touched on obviously the diversity of bringing more women into the industry. I think financial services is a very male-driven culture, and it has been like that for many years. Looking at various stats, we can go into that later in. It's a very small percentage of women in the industry, whether because that's maybe barriers to entry or opportunities don't come about, but it's definitely a stance that needs to open up and needs action to take place. And I think you're a great and amazing advocate for that to happen. I mean, you're 20 years of age, obviously, and you've nearly passed all your exams. I mean, it's a very proud thing, and I think it's an amazing achievement. Obviously, not fully regulated, qualified yet, but you got one more exam.
Yeah.
Obviously, right. Let's go back. Obviously, you didn't manage to go down the route of being a lawyer. You went down the route into financial services. Is there anything you'd probably look back on that you probably wanted to do differently? I mean, obviously the opportunity to open up to go as a executive assistant, then trainee advisor. Do you regret it?
I definitely don't regret it 100%. I think there's things I wish I maybe asked more questions. I think being able to, I think what I would have liked to have known, and what I want other people to know, is how valuable young people's insights are and how important that fresh thinking is.
Definitely.
And I think having the confidence to ask those questions is really difficult, and it's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Something that I watched last year, a webinar on imposter syndrome, and it's a great thing that people are beginning to talk about, especially in financial services. And I think looking back, it would be so easy for me to say, oh, I wish I asked more questions at 18 years old. But in reality, I definitely didn't have the confidence to do that. So I think actually my takeaway from that is I wish I was a bit kinder to myself starting out in the industry, and to not think that I'm going to get everything immediately.
I think that's a very our generation type of thing, is instant gratification and satisfaction. Going on to that as well, obviously it's now nearly 3 years you've been working for an advisory firm. Obviously you said you started like executive assistant, and they said, what will make you a trainee financial advisor? They obviously saw something in you, and it's obviously quite evidential. What is it like working for an advisory firm? Because obviously you said on the outside perspective, everyone thinks it's probably very boring, isn't it? But there's a lot more to it than people think. So really, what was your first impressions? You rocked up, young individual, 18 out of school, then go down the lawyer route, and now you're working for a financial advisory firm. Obviously, it changed a little bit because you went to the trainee element of it. But what does it look like? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
So I think I've always been quite a confident person. So I remember just turning up and being really excited and being really open-minded about what I was getting myself into. I go back to the whole untrue assumptions thing. I remember thinking, when you picture a financial advice firm, you think of these high-rise buildings. It's scary. It's, overwhelming. The firm that I work for is amazing. It is on this beautiful farm.
Right, okay, wow. A little different,
It is so different. And I think environment is such an important part as to where you're working. I immediately felt relaxed. Everyone was so helpful. Obviously, this is my own experience. And the thing about financial advice firms, which I think are great, is that which is different to corporate finance, is that you get these smaller boutique style firms that have a smaller team. You can build deeper connections with people. You can have closer relationships with
stronger
clients.
synergy. Yeah,
absolutely. You actually really get to know the people, and it becomes really close knit, a community. And I think there's something really powerful in that. Not only for the people working there, but for the people who are part of the firm, whether that's clients or different professional relationships. So yes, when I first joined, I realised that how important environment is and how grateful I am to be in the environment that I'm in, to have the capacity to feel relaxed and almost feel at home.
Yeah, and I think on top of that as well, I think a lot of firms know that it's now time for succession planning, as in trying to get young individuals into the industry. And the sad truth is that it's probably not happening at a rate that people probably want it to be. So I know a lot of firms are trying to almost get themselves prepared to have young individuals in. I mean, SJP do it very well. They almost mass produce it in a certain way, but the academies are very strong, and various individuals come out very educated. Obviously, there's a lot of context of being young, giving advice and all the rest, because obviously a lot of people are like, with grey hair, with age of wisdom and all the rest. But obviously, you spoke about the environment. What about the roles? What are the roles to look forward to in financial services? I know you got administrator, you got financial planner, you got a paraplanner, there's back office, front office. Could you give a little insight into those different roles for a young individual that wants to go, right, I want to go into financial services, but I've got no clue in what sector or what department?
Yeah. So I think that's the amazing thing about this profession, is that there's so many different avenues you can go down. When thinking about an advisor role, that is really well suited to someone who likes to be client facing and wants to build relationships with clients directly. But actually, I almost take that back. And I think those who are in paraplanning roles and client support roles, who we may label as back office, they are the backbone for the beginning of those relationships.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
And they are the ones who are initially and ongoingly directly corresponding with clients. And their technical knowledge and expertise is amazing. And there's so many people in those roles already who would make fantastic financial planners and fantastic advisors.
Definitely. I think also because a lot of people don't, I think, understand that power planner has exactly the same qualifications as a financial advisor, if not maybe a bit more, because it can get very technical and very complicated. It's a massive synergy thing. And obviously there's various progression in all of that, right? Most people start out as administrator, maybe go to a trainee advisor or go down the power planner route. And then you've got two verticals. You either stay a power planner, become even more technical involved, or go down and be a financial advisor. So there's so much room for progression. And the thing as well, I think what a lot of younger people need to also understand, I guess, is that it's not instant, right? It is instant, you can get your foot in the door, but these things do take time. Getting the qualifications, doing it properly, because I guess the other thing as well, being young, is it's great to have the qualification. You've studied hard, you've got all your technicals right, but you can't rush experience. That does take time. But I must say, contradictively, with the various qualifications and studies that are in place now by CII and CISI, they're so robust and so good that almost a lot of the newer generation of younger people coming into the industry almost not overqualified, but do know their things very, very well. And this almost needs to be advocated to, older demographic clients and for them to actually understand that the young individuals coming through are almost more focused on the studying and educational element and the selling of their products or giving the advice, that their technical element is very much up to par and is very well rounded. That's great. What about your role? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? If someone was in your shoes and they work in the financial service sector, what is it that you do?
So every day is different.
Right.
And yeah, it's a mix between I'm always talking to clients, whether that be on the phone, email, or in person. And at the moment, obviously, because I'm still in training mode, observing those meetings, and I actually label myself as a sponge.
A sponge.
Because
That's a good analogy, yeah.
I'm just taking in all of the wonderful expertise and knowledge of those around me, and I'm around incredibly inspiring people and learning from those people. And that's what's so wonderful about going in and to a firm where I'm in the office and I can learn from people who really know their stuff. My day will vary from client meetings and preparing for meetings behind the scenes, whether that be cash flow modeling, which is something that is truly amazing, brings people's finances to life. And it's very rewarding actually being able to build something for someone from scratch, and then to be able to be in the meeting and see their reaction to that is very powerful. So that is the favorite thing about my day, is I'm preparing this model, and then the week after I'm sat in the room with the client looking at their finances on the screen. And behind the scenes as well, whether that's writing suitability reports, doing different investment research. There's so many different aspects to the role, and client communication is the main part of it.
I think you put, kind of hit the nail on the head. Although you might go into a route of, financial planning or power planning or, financial planning administrative work, you end up doing a lot of other things included, right? So, not say like jack of all trades, master of none, but you kind of do learn experience in everything. And it's so good to be rounded in that, because you can know how the process works from A to Z until you get to the client outcome. You spoke about cash flow modeling, and I think that's a great tool because it's very visual. And the problem is a lot of advice is very communicative, but there's not a lot of tools to actually show the advice. Like, what does that mean on paper? Like, yes, there's numbers, and because a lot of times you can do suitability reports, which is numbers and facts and figures, but the beauty about a cash flow model, it puts it all into a visual image where both the advisor and the client can understand. I mean, that's a great insight. And I think obviously, like you said, it's quite enjoyable to some degrees. Obviously, work is a work, isn't it? But it's not just sitting behind a computer all day. It's a lot more to it. And I think the client work is great as well, because if you enjoy talking to people, enjoy getting to know people, that is what, financial services is really all about. Relationship work. It's a massive, massive pivotal part of financial services. While working for the firm, obviously only being 20 years old, are there any big hurdles you've had to overcome or challenges within financial services? Because obviously, you just finished school when you're 18 and now work in industry that you've never worked in before. Is there something that, you thought was a big challenge or a big hurdle to get into the industry?
I think I will bring it back to the academic side of things with exams.
Right.
I failed RO2 and RO3
Right.
first time.
I think it's really good. Let's first explain to the audience, I guess, what are the entries to become a financial planner? Because we can go down that route now of really what the exams look like.
Yeah.
And that kind of will tick the box of the hurdles and the challenges. So can you explain what are ROs? Where do you study? What are the exams? What does it mean? What is all of this?
So I'd never heard of them before starting. So I'm sure many people haven't as well. So yes, there's 6 exams, RO1 to RO6. I've obviously got my RO6 in April.
Right,
Fingers
one
crossed
away,
for that.
yeah, 5 down, 1 to go.
That's it. And so we've got RO1, which is on financial regulation.
And ethics.
Yeah. I know you've done that one recently,
Yeah, I have,
haven't you?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. I'm not going to sugarcoat that one. It is the terms and conditions of the finance world. It's
very, very important though, because
it's so important.
It gives an overlay into all the others, doesn't it?
Yeah. So once you get that one out of the way, then moving on to RO2, which is investment principles and risk. And I really enjoyed that exam actually. And what I really liked about that exam is that some of the questions go back to client objectives. So it's all about, why would this be suitable for a client, talking about diversification, asset allocation, all these different aspects to investments, not necessarily the technical side of things, but relating it back to the client and their own personal circumstances. And obviously I failed that one first time.
But you passed it afterwards, yeah.
Second time, passed. There's so much content in that one. I really found it a bit challenging.
Yeah.
It's a big textbook. RO3, taxation, which is actually my favourite one.
Right, well, a lot of people always avoid that one for the very last exam.
And when I went into it, I was petrified of this exam because I'm rubbish at maths.
Yeah.
So
you got C for maths and A levels.
Yeah, so I thought this is not going to go well. And I think I'd already got it in my head that I know I'm not going to pass this first time. And I really shouldn't have gone into it like that. I should have,
been just very confident with the approach.
Been more positive about it. And yeah, that covers all aspects of taxation.
Linking to the products as well. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So talking about income tax, inheritance tax, VCTs, EISs, all these different things.
VCTs being obviously venture capitalist trusts and entrepreneur investment schemes.
Which are great, products out there.
Yeah.
And then moving on to RO4, which is the one that I did most recently, actually. Which is pensions and retirement planning. Again, I really enjoyed that one, and that really looks at the technical aspects of pensions, drawing down income when you get to different stages of life. And it's things that it amazes me that we just don't know about these things. And I speak to so many clients and they've never been spoken to about retirement planning, and it's something that we're all going to be doing, whether or not we like it. 100%. And there's so much of fear attached to it, and I think we've spoken before about money being more psychological, and the psychology behind retirement is massive. Just I will go back to exams, but to touch on that specifically, what I found when talking about retirement and being in those meetings is the power of listening is huge, and not interrupting and letting clients be in an environment, a safe space, and as planners to foster those conversations around what on earth am I going to do when I stop working, because I've always worked. It's a remarkable thing to watch a client actually figure out their own solution. And as advisors and planners, we want to go in when thinking about retirement and say, well, you can retire. We look at the graph that we've just made. You can retire at 65 and you'll be absolutely fine.
Very fulfilling.
Yeah. When they need, something much bigger than a graph, they need their own epiphany moment and light bulb moment to think,
right,
I can do this. Yeah, and that's personal.
But the thing is, it's a very human element where you kind of want someone else to validate it to a bit, right? Because we spoke about this. It's almost like you as your own individual, you probably know the kind of answers to the questions, but you don't trust yourself or your own judgment. So you'd rather probably want to go to professional to validate that. And that's the beauty about financial advisors, because we obviously take the relationship element and we get the facts, the figures, the intrinsics, in the technicals, everything you can think about to almost validate the questions as an individual you don't want to answer.
Definitely.
And so we went up to RO4, RO5. Now it's RO5.
RO5, which I actually did after RO1.
Okay.
Which I would recommend for anyone watching. I think is typically known as a slightly easier exam. So it's a level 3, whereas all the others are level 4. And yeah, it was a good one to do afterwards, and that's on financial protection. So looking at things like income protection, critical illness cover, whole of life policies, all things that are really important. We were talking about this earlier.
We were.
Of how
very undersold in the UK.
Definitely, and how much it's needed. And I was speaking to you earlier about we see so many widows, and my goodness, how much, not necessarily easier, but how different our jobs would be if those protection policies were in place.
Definitely.
And we had those safeguards in place. So it's such an important exam and so much information packed in there, which is really valuable in the real world.
Definitely, yeah. And then the final and the big one that you're waiting for?
Yes. So RO6, which is financial planning process. So that is, you get 2 case studies, and you get the case studies a couple of weeks in advance, and you don't get the questions with those, but you just get the written case. And then when you get to the exam, it's a 3-hour exam. And you'll be asked various questions on the case.
You say it kind of test your knowledge on RO1 to RO5 ultimately.
Yeah, looking back at the previous exams, which I'm studying for at the moment, it's not necessarily looked at, you're not having to discuss the technical aspects of things. It's more so solution based and things to consider. So when looking at a client going into retirement, you would be looking at their health and all these different things.
The caveats.
So it's a super interesting exam and really applicable to the real world. So I'm actually quite looking forward to it, because I think
a lot of people are usually very scared about it. They get through all the ROs, but the RO6 is what they're scared about.
I think because of the way that the 1 to 5 are multiple choice, which I think when people think multiple choice, they think it's going to be easy, and these exams really aren't easy. So I'm looking forward to doing something written. That's what I love writing.
But also on that, obviously they're not impossible. If you put in the hard work and you put in the studies, you'll be able to manage it, Obviously we speak about the, acronyms RO1, RO6, and these are exams that are through the Chartered Insurance Institute, CII. But for listeners, I mean, you don't have to have a degree to study.
No.
You literally don't need to, right? So I think we'd agree you can go through it on the CISI route or the CII route, or there's the LIB route as well, I think. And the beauty is they're all very good institutes. There's no wrong or right. It's your own preference in theory, right? Some financial advisor firms like the CISI route and some like the CII route. So talking about the studies, obviously there's no entry. You can literally pay now and do it tomorrow and start the exams, right? But probably the best route to go down is almost kind of join an advisory firm and do it while you're studying for the exams. So you get the actual real life experience where you can match it against the knowledge you're learning. Because I think it's very difficult to learn the knowledge and then have no life experience on it. Regarding, is there any other knowledge you use to aid yourself into studying the exams? Like any other resources that you help to pass the ROs?
So I'm a member of Next Gen Planners, which are amazing. And I can safely say I wouldn't have been able to do the exams if it wasn't for their resources. I mean, you know, the book that comes from the CII is it's
Yeah,
black
it's
and
hefty.
white.
Yeah, it's really
It's
hefty.
yeah, it's not the most inspiring book to look at. Whereas Next Gen Planners, they break everything down into videos. I'm a real visual learner, so that
Okay.
was amazing for me. And they do these classroom days, which are just fantastic. So if you're not a member of Next Gen Planners, then I would definitely
Right.
recommend being so. And alongside that, I also used No RO for
Okay.
my RO4 exam, which was amazing. And they have lots of different resources out there, past papers, analysis of answers in past papers. Because you
Right.
find yourself, when you're doing these past papers, right, that's the wrong answer. But then how do I get to the right answer?
Yeah, true. Yeah, we don't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they do is they break down how you get to the right answer so you can actually learn from it. And I think my biggest tip would definitely be as well to not just read the textbook. I think having different ways of revising, active recall is so important. Going into this, I knew absolutely nothing about finance at all. And I just had to start from scratch. And there's a lot of self-motivation needed to do that, I think. And a lot of people will feel the same, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I think it all comes back to why you're doing it. And I think you can be really clear on that why if
Yeah.
you're working at a financial advisory firm on the side.
Yeah.
My why is being able to serve the next generation of clients. So whilst I'm sat there with my study book, I can think, I know why I'm doing this. So it's going to get me
Very the
through
hard
that.
yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think if there's any other resources. Brand FT, they have some great financial past
Also,
papers.
CI also have their own type of revision mate as
Yeah.
well, which is good help. But I
Definitely.
think the biggest issue I'd say is probably the exams are very different to the actual questions that CII provide. The
Yeah.
exams are always completely different. So it's trying to get like past papers or revision work that kind of matches the exam
Yeah.
very closely. Obviously, it sounds like you've worked very hard and you've had to balance this while working, while studying and social life and all the rest. Is there any tips you can give, like how you manage that, study, work life at the same time? Because it's not easy finishing work late and having to go home and study and then get on with it.
Great question, and I definitely haven't got it right.
Not mastered it yet. I don't think anyone ever mastered it.
And definitely made some mistakes. It's really easy to burn out.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to prioritize things that you want to do aside from working and studying. One of the things I love to do is traveling, and
You mentioned, independent traveler.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I did last year was plan my exams around where I want to go and when I want to take my time off, and at least then I've got
motivation. Yeah.
Exactly. So that would be a top tip of mine to, plan your annual leave around your exams so you've got something to look forward to.
Yeah, like a goalpost or like a goal. Yeah.
Exactly. And also to not feel guilty if you think to yourself, you know what, I am just not in the headspace right now to study. I'm going to have a day off from it, and you will feel 10 times better from taking a break. And that has taken me a really long time to learn. Even when I think back to me balancing my A levels with other various personal things going on, and I didn't have that balance right. And I think to some extent it's really easy to use studying as a coping mechanism for things you might have going on at home or personally, and being able to break that down is quite a challenge.
Definitely, yeah.
But once you're there and you can focus on what else do I want to be doing other than studying, you can get there. And one of the things actually that someone said to me was, you're only going to be doing this once, so enjoy it.
Yeah, true.
And it changed my perspective on things because they were so right. I'm only ever going to be doing my ROs once and working.
Yeah.
So I might as well try and enjoy it instead of making it a challenge. Yeah, exactly.
No, definitely. I think it's a very fair and invaluable insight into really what it is. Like I said, it's very accessible. It's just you have to have, I guess, the motivation and willpower to actually do it.
Mhm.
And also, I think, like you said, the industry isn't as boring as everyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
It's an amazing and beautiful industry to be in, because of not just about personal growth, but the effect you can have on other people's lives, and whether that's what you aspire, that's what you like as an individual. I think is very rewarding. So obviously that's a bit of insight into the exams and how to enter into the industry. Is there any advice you can give young individuals, maybe young women, young ladies, young men? Because obviously the stats are, it's 0.6% of advisors in the UK are under the age of 25. If you put on that figures, it's about 200 advisors in the UK. Alongside of that, I think the FCA or the PFS said that I think it was 16% of advisors in the UK are women. So I'd be very scared to know how much of that 200 advisors under the age of 25 are women too, right? Obviously, there's a lot of misconceptions of the industry. There's a lot of who's and whats and different cultures. But if there's any advice for young women to come into industry, what would you tell them?
I would just want them to know how valuable their insights are. And I think women have a superpower with listening. I think naturally we are better listeners, we show more empathy, and I really want young women to know how far that will get them
Yeah,
and how important that is when working closely with clients. And I think my biggest advice, I think, for women and also for financial advice firms is encouragement. I think giving people encouragement and the confidence to take that step and to take a risk into the unknown world of
yeah,
financial planning is huge. And I have this sickening positivity that I think anyone can do absolutely anything they want, um, if they have the right encouragement and support around them. And with that, the challenge. And having those two elements of support and challenge, women, young women, everyone
yeah,
will grow personally and professionally. So I want people to know that it's not going to be a straightforward journey. Nothing is ever straightforward, but it's an amazing profession to be in, and it's a life-giving profession, and it's not about numbers and it's not about figures. And I just really want to get that out there, that we want people from all different walks of life. And something that I've got written down here actually is that, to give an example, I grew up in social housing. I
wow.
I definitely don't look the part of a financial advisor. I got a C in maths, and
Here you are today, 20 years
yeah,
old, one exam away from
yeah,
being a
and
regulated advisor.
I want people to know that actually you don't need to fit in the box to be able to be here. We want those people who are outside of the box, because financial planning is about, yes, it's about academic intelligence, but emotional intelligence is huge as
Huge, yeah.
well. So yes, my one piece of advice would be to encourage people and for people to have that confidence to come forward and join us.
No, very inspiring. And I think you obviously touched a lot on obviously personal stuff too. I think as well, firms need to also open themselves up for those opportunities. I think, advisory firms that do it very well is where, they're able to invite trainee advisors and give them the support to study, give them support to learn, give them the
Mm-hmm.
support for experience. And that opens up so many other doors,
Mm-hmm.
right? And obviously, historically, financial services is a very male-driven culture. It's been like that for many years, and you look at the numbers, the facts don't lie. And I think it's really encouraging. I think, Maria, you're in a great, progression where you can be a huge advocate for this. And you really are, obviously. And I think it's something to be very proud of and something that you can even communicate and be louder about. And obviously, anyone who's listening to this podcast can take some inspiration from that too, whether you're a young lady or a young male going into the industry and you might be a bit lost or you don't know what you want to do. It's so easy to find out. Maybe by listening to this podcast, you'll know now, maybe not before, but it's really easy to get into the industry and teach yourself and do the exams and kind of find your path. But you just need to start. That's all.
Yeah.
You just need to start and get the inspiration from somewhere. I wanted to ask if you had to do it all over again with the knowledge you currently have now. So let's say, for example, you realize you want to go into financial services and going down the lawyer opportunity wasn't for you. What would you do again? What would you do if you had to start over? If you had to go into financial services?
I definitely would have liked to have felt more confident going in. I would have liked to have, and I guess it's a personal thing more so.
Yeah.
But to have tackled that imposter syndrome, and to have realised how valuable, I would have liked to have realised earlier on how valuable it is for young people to be in the profession and for young females to be in the profession. And I think that fear that I had when I first started of, I don't look the part, and I'm
very daunting.
Very, very daunting.
But would you say now, though, I mean, you're happy you took that leap of faith or that jump because you're smashing it now, I guess, to a degree.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I just would have really liked to, as I say, take that leap of faith earlier and actually just realise these things earlier. And I think that's part of the reasons why I'm here today, because I want people that are listening at home to realise that they can do that. They can take that leap of faith, and having that self-belief that you can do something is amazing. And I think I would have liked to have had that self-belief earlier on, and not be so doubtful going into the industry. I'm definitely not there yet. And I've spoken to people who have been in the industry for years, incredibly inspiring people who still have imposter syndrome.
Wow.
Females who still feel that they still don't look the part, and they're
or belong
still
in this sector or whatever it might be.
So we have so much to work on, and I think we definitely are getting there. As you say, with trainee programs, I think as well, which I will touch on, which is interesting. Obviously, when I was actually applying for solicitor apprenticeships, before joining where I am right now, and the way that they were structured was really appealing because it's so clear.
As in the progression and what you need to know and how you're going to get there.
Absolutely. And you know what you're getting yourself into. Whereas because there's not many trainee advisor roles out there at the moment, we don't really know what we're getting ourselves into. And I think something that the industry needs to work on is getting clearer definition of what that is and how it's going to work, doing both, doing the studying and working full time. And I think that's a great first step in getting more young people engaged and getting the awareness and the exposure of the industry out there. And incredibly young, intelligent people will see that and think, I can do that. But we need to make them feel like that first.
100%. I completely agree.
In order to get there.
I completely agree. Because the thing is as well is sometimes firms will make up the whole trainee advisor and then they'll just plug them in, and then it's basically just, you kind of figure it out as it goes on. But if some firms can have a very structured year plan, 2-year plan of exactly what that role means, it's a lot more, I guess, enticing or inviting for young individuals. Because the truth is that there's such a big market for young individuals now in financial services that people should enter this industry. It's an amazing industry to be in. There's so much you can learn, so much you can do. I mean, the remuneration is another element of it too. You can make good money from it. Don't think you can't. You obviously have to put the hard yards in, you put the studies in, but that's another factor as well. But it can be done. It's a great opportunity. And if firms can hopefully capitalize on that and make that change, I think they'll invite very aspiring young individuals because the financial service sector is changing. I mean, there's a lot of regulations and consumer duty. A lot of things have changed from the retail distribution review many years ago. Obviously, everything now is more about the client outcome, the relationship outcome. And you've got young individuals coming to the industry who are very well educated if they've passed the RO exams. technicals are up to scratch as a paraplanner. So you're dealing with very well-educated and well-rounded people. And for clients now who are going to advisory firms, they might meet a young advisor or young paraplanner who's obviously fully qualified. They should definitely be or reassured that they're talking to an individual who knows their stuff. Because the exams necessarily aren't the easiest. They're not difficult, but they take time, and they give you such a soundboard of knowledge where you know a lot of things. So going back to, I think clients nowadays, obviously the older demographic, need to be reassured when they speak to a younger person. They really do know their stuff. But that takes time, obviously.
Absolutely.
That takes time.
I think it's such an interesting point as well. And coming into today, I really didn't want to make it divisional between new advisors coming on board and the existing advisors, because we have so much to learn from them.
Of course,
and they are so inspiring. But there is so much room for change and new thinking. A lot of people I see in the profession, question, well, I wouldn't want to speak to a young advisor. And it's such an important thing to talk about, because that's absolutely fine. I know that everyone won't want to talk to me. Will 100% not be for everyone. And you need to have that self-awareness going in when you're having these client meetings, that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I think that what I would like to tell those people who may be unsure in the future down the line wanting to talk to me is actually that not only do I want to be there for you, but also for your children and your grandchildren, and to serve your family through the generations, which an advisor who you might be working closely with, who is leading up to retirement,
the succession planning.
Yeah, you won't be able to do that. So I think I want to give clients the reassurance, and also I want to give the profession reassurance and the industry, that we are here for the long term. We're here to serve you through generations. And as a business, for businesses to be able to take on young people, I mean, wow, how transformative that will be for businesses.
I guess it's a risk for them as well to bear in mind.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think it's probably not something that a lot of people have thought about, succession planning, and people probably will ignore it and not want to think about it. But it's something we really need to think about.
Definitely.
And I'm so excited to see financial planning firms taking on young people, and hopefully they can see that the changes that can be made through that, and how transformative that will be for them personally, but for the business as well.
Yeah, massively. And I think we're always in that the same, I guess, age gap as well. So I'm very excited to see where this industry is going to lead to. And there's also a lot of, communities now also, I guess, motivating younger advisors to come to the industry, or young individuals, to come into the industry. I mean, we spoke about quite a lot, Maria, and I guess it's more about just yourself, your own personal life goals, your own personal development. Obviously you work, you study hard, you got one more exam. What's life for you outside of work, and what's your personal goals or career-driven goals after you pass your exams?
So outside of work, which I touched on earlier, that I love to travel. So last year I solo travelled 7 different destinations.
Right.
Yeah.
Very independent.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to doing a further 6.
Can I ask what countries?
So, if I can remember, here we go.
Right.
So last year, I did south of France. That included Monaco, Nice, all the so beautiful down there.
Wow.
And moved on to Vienna, Slovakia, and Budapest, and Switzerland. I'm trying to think if there is anywhere else. Maybe not this year.
Right. Wow.
This year I'm looking forward to. So I've got Slovenia, Madeira, Lisbon, Albania, and Nice again,
Right.
and Monaco. So
you've well traveled, and I I guess life outside of work is not too bad, not too shabby.
Yeah, it's
So,
busy, and I
yeah.
love to balance, fitness.
Yeah, you said you're avid trainer. Do you love a gym session?
Yes, so I like
Very
to go.
healthy.
Yeah, it's so important to, mentally as well and physically. Go to the gym most days. I used to swim competitively, so I'm getting
Okay.
back, not
I'm not a good
swim.
swimmer at all. So swimming is the last thing I
Oh,
probably do.
okay, yeah, not a swim competitive, but just get a swim in once a week. I've been doing yoga for quite a few months now, and I've been really enjoying that.
Would you say, obviously, going to the gym, or whether it's jog, a run, a walk, lifting weights, whatever you want to do on a training, it's such a good mental break from everything, not just your studies and life and career and work. It's just such a good refresher, because afterwards you feel so good about yourself, endorphins and all of the rest. It's a great little break.
Definitely 100%. I think, you
Yeah.
play, you've background of rugby.
Yeah.
And I think you can probably relate to the fact that you can just forget about everything.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, well, I might get some head knocks and all the rest. Maybe I
Yeah,
won't be remembering everything.
that's it. Yeah.
No, that's really great. I think it's really important for viewers to know that obviously financial services can be also very long hours sometimes. It's also good balance. But it's what you make of it, isn't
Yeah.
it? And very exciting, very, very exciting opportunities. If someone young was ever listening to this podcast or watching the video, there's such a big opportunity and people need to jump on it now.
Yeah.
Because it's only going to get better. Maria, obviously you told us a bit about, your traveling and life outside of work. What about your personal or career goals or future personal goals that you want to achieve?
Great question. So I would love to be a chartered financial planner.
Okay.
To move on to my chartered exams, which I'll get these ones out of the way first and then hopefully move on.
Think you'll take a bit of a break once you get your qualifications and then go into chartered exams?
Couple months break.
Couple of traveling, yeah.
A couple hours,
Book a holiday after every exam.
That's it,
Right, I
yeah,
got that. And outside of life, outside of the career, life goals?
Just in general, I would like to inspire others to just have self-belief in general. It's actually over the last week, I had 2 people say to me that I've inspired them to do XYZ, and that just means the world to me.
Very empowering. Yeah.
That is so empowering. And I guess it links to personal professional goals, but I would love to see to be able to make women feel empowered to make confident decisions about finance and to own it, to just feel empowered to make those decisions and to have financial independence.
If you don't mind me asking, obviously, with the financial services being a very male-driven culture, how does it feel like to be a woman in financial services?
I think...
And it's a very open question, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed.
I feel very honoured to be one of the women in financial services, and it's something that dawned on me very early on, probably days into my role. Whether that's contacting people via email or phoning people, how very little there are of us females in the financial planning world and in financial services, and I would love to see a community of us together. I think women are great at building connections with people and building relationships with people, and how amazing and transformative it could be if we could all come together and discuss different topics and to bounce off each other with ideas. So I'm so excited for the potential of that idea. And in a nutshell, I feel honoured to be here, and I feel empowered to be here.
That's brilliant. If there's one key takeaway you would like to leave the audience or viewers, whoever's listening or watching, from all of this, what would you want to leave them?
I think I just want them to know how valuable their insights are and how much we desperately need young people in the industry, young females. We need you. So that would be what I want people to take away.
Awesome. Maria, thank you very much for your time. I thought it was very insightful, especially as a younger person. I'm actually doing the exams myself. But also I think for the audience, I think they can take a lot from this, about the entries, the exams, where to go to, what to do, what it looks like in the financial services sector, what is a financial
Yeah.
advisor, what is a paraplanner. Very, very insightful. And thank you for your time as well. And best of luck with everything you're going to achieve in the future. I'm sure you're going to smash a lot of records and a lot of achievements and accolades. And
Thank
very
you.
excited to see your progression in life. Thank you for joining us on the Zomi Wealthcast. I hope you took in a lot from what these podcasts do and you've gained invaluable knowledge. If you don't mind subscribing or sharing the videos and the podcast to anyone else you think might need to hear or watch it.